Yemen's Houthi rebels claimed they shot down another U.S. military's MQ-9 Reaper drone. The Houthis also aired footage of the unmanned aircraft, claiming they had shot down the Predator with a surface-to-air missile. The U.S. military says a U.S. Air Force MQ-9 drone had crashed in Yemen. It added that an investigation was underway without elaborating further. The Houthis say the missile was shot down on Thursday over their stronghold in the country's Saada province. The Houthi footage included several close-ups on parts of the drone. It showed the logo of General Atomics that manufactures the drone and serial numbers corresponding with known parts made by the company.
Well, I expect them to continue to do this because Iran wants them to do it. As Fareed said, this is Iran's quest for regional hegemony. And also, no matter what we say about not wanting to escalate, they want escalation. Our friends in the region, they want to see a strong America. The alternative is we go closer to the source. Iran's playing a very cagey game. They do not want the United States or Israel to strike their nuclear facilities. They may be very close to a nuclear weapon. They're asking themselves, should they get it? Should they declare it? Should they test it? What will be the consequences?
It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. We have spent more than $2 billion on the greatest scientific gamble in history, and we have won.
I was worried more than anything else, above everything else, about the possible outbreak of a nuclear war, because both we and the Soviet Union, as you know, had enough nuclear weapons to completely destroy each other, but also maybe to cause a nuclear holocaust throughout the world.
Okay, let's go back to the Red Sea area. Let's talk about this war that the U.S. is raging. One of the many wars the U.S. is running right now. This war against Yemen, which is a country that's not that much smaller than Iraq, not that much smaller than Afghanistan, but this war is flying under the radar for many people. We're not getting that much press on it. Not that many people are covering it because most people are focused, obviously, on the proxy war in Ukraine or Israel, Palestine, that whole situation. But this war that the United States is raging against Yemen is actually directly related to the Israel-Palestine war, because the Houthis, the Yemeni army, is supporting Palestine and they're directly attacking Israel. But the U.S. engaged in a full-blown war against the country of Yemen in order to protect the Israelis, because obviously the Israelis can't handle wars on multiple fronts like that. They can barely handle Hamas, but that's a different video. So the reason why I cover this war is because I'm against all of these U.S. foreign interventionist wars. We're constantly engaging in some type of war, and the problem is too many Americans are way too cocky about America's military might, America's power, America's influence throughout the world. So people think that the United States is completely unstoppable. They can do anything. They can provoke anybody. And the problem with that is it's led to all of these interventionist wars. It's led to all these deaths, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians dead. We don't know what the damage will be if something actually breaks out in East Asia with North Korea and China, Taiwan, South Korea. That can get really ugly. And people are quick to try to push these things, talking about like, oh, let's send special forces, let's send aircraft carriers right up to China, let's give all of these long-range weapons to Ukraine so they can directly attack the Russians. Let's just go bomb Iran. Let's attack them at the source, like this general was saying. Let's just hit them at the source, especially these politicians. And you're going to have American military power stretched thin because they can't handle all of these fronts. The American military is shrinking, having a recruiting problem and having a wokeness problem. That's a different story too. And the end game is America itself will end up being degraded. The American military will end up being degraded, and we'll end up with a lot of casualties in the United States. And I also like to cover this war because of the NATO trolls, all of these clowns on the internet who are constantly popping off at the mouth. Oh, the Russians are trash, China's trash, America's completely unstoppable. Then we look over here at what's going on in the Red Sea against a third world country. America is struggling. And I think it's hilarious to see these trolls try to twist things to make it seem like, well, no, we're not really struggling. Everything is going perfectly fine. But the Russians, they're struggling. They're sorry. And we can just wipe the Russians off the map at any moment. So I think it's hilarious to see stuff like that, basically to see them exposed. So let's get down to what the hell is actually going on right now. So obviously, United States started Operation Prosperity Guardian several months ago. They were really confident, the Secretary of Defense, Biden, them, they were really confident, oh yeah, it's just some ragtag group over there in the desert, which they're not. They're a professional army with sophisticated weaponry. The United States sent all these naval destroyers, these cruisers over there. Obviously, they got submarines over there. The aircraft carrier, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the whole strike group is over there in the Red Sea. All of that military might, all of that money just to stop a third world country. And it hasn't been working out. The United States, Great Britain, they've been doing all these airstrikes, shooting missiles into the country, trying their best to stop the Houthis, trying to scare them off with Western military might, and it's failed. And at this point, it's cost so much money, so much time, and it's taken so long that Dwight D. Eisenhower and part of his strike group, a lot of the ships with it, have left this coalition. A large chunk of this coalition has left the Red Sea. They're going to the Mediterranean, they're going to other places because they claim they got other things to do. So when you listen to the U.S. government, the Navy, their excuse on why they left, obviously they're using political puffed up fluff pieces to try to make it seem like everything is completely under American control. So let's look at what the commanding admiral over there said, the one who was running this war over here. The Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group has delivered exceptional naval power in the U.S. Fifth Fleet for the last 5 months. He's being really vague here, too. And that's another way that the United States government manipulates the American people, because they talk about these wars, this geopolitical stuff, these issues like this in very vague terms where most people are like, oh, okay, they don't think too much about it. So just avoid giving them detail, be vague, just make a little fluff piece, and people just going about their business. Re-entry into the U.S. Sixth Fleet is only a small gesture by ability to project combat superiority to any part of the globe. So basically saying they were down there in the Gulf of Aden, in the Red Sea area, in combat, fighting against Yemen, but now they're moving over to the Mediterranean saying, well, maybe we might have to protect the Israelis from the Lebanese, maybe we might have to protect them from the Gazans. We see the United States building that beachhead, they call it a humanitarian pier. That's a different video over there in Gaza. So naval assets are moving back to the Mediterranean Sea and no longer in combat against the Houthis. And now the Houthis are declaring victory. So the bottom line of what's happening here is this is becoming yet another failed war. So in our generations, since 9/11, even before then, the United States has engaged in all these interventionist wars. We went into Syria, we went into Libya, we went into Afghanistan, we went into Iraq twice. We went into the Baltics. All these interventionist wars are failures. You spend all this money, you bum people, you make people hate you around the world, and your wars become a bust. First, France ran off. I talked about that a little while ago, how the French took their ships out of there. They sailed back home to France because they said, look, we're used to fighting against people who can't fight back. There's too much shooting. The Houthis are shooting anti-ship missiles. They might seek out frigates over here. We got to get out of here. So France turned tail. They got the hell out of there. And now the United States is realizing that they can't stop these people unless they put tens of thousands of Marines on the ground. And we know how the politics would go if you did that. Unless they did something like that, they have no chance of stopping the Houthis. And even doing that, it will become a nasty quagmire. So the U.S. is pulling out critical assets without accomplishing its mission. Sound familiar? Sounds like what they did in Afghanistan just 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. They didn't accomplish their mission, went in there to eliminate the Taliban 20 years later, jumped in their jets, flew off, and left the country to the Taliban and left those people to suffer over there. So Operation Prosperity Guardian is a total bust. The United States was unable to stop the Houthis. They spent billions of dollars with allegedly the best tech in the world, the most powerful military in history, as is the... And they couldn't do it against the Houthi, against the army of Yemen, against these rebels. They're terming them rebels, a bunch of ragtag rebels. Unable to do it. The crazy part is people talk all this trash. Oh, the Russians, they can't stop Ukraine and all that. So you got Ukraine being propped up by 30 nations, being funded by the United States and all of this flunkies in the West. But the United States is going against the Houthi. They're being funded and supplied, helped out by Iran. but you don't have dozens of countries helping them out. And you have all of this military might, all of this power, all this expensive weaponry, full-blown naval fleets, aircraft carriers. And the United States love bragging about the boats and aircraft carriers. And you couldn't stop the Houthis? So, like I said, this operation is a bust. And now we have people in the Pentagon, high-ranking military officers, saying that this failure, this operation being a bust, the Houthis shooting drones and anti-ship missiles and hijacking cargo ships and all that, this is evidence that the United States needs directed energy weapons, because all of this weaponry that the United States has right now is not enough. He said, no, it's not good enough. We're going against the Houthis. We just failed a war against the Houthis, and that's proof that we need to spend more money to get some lasers, and we need some directed energy weapons. We need more power. We need to make even more military might to go against a third world country. But it's crazy that this third world country, they just outlasted the United States. They hid in the mountains and just outlasted them. And the Houthis knew this going in. Since Vietnam, probably before then, you probably go back to Korea, but since Vietnam, countries have been observing. These people around the world are not stupid. They watch when the United States engages in these interventionist wars. So they have found the key to defeating the United States. This is why the United States wars are constantly failing. Because the United States always goes in hot with all of this power bombing people and all of that. But the countries realize, especially much smaller, much weaker countries, Vietnam and Afghanistan, all these type of countries, they realize the key to defeating the United States is attrition. Outlast them, because eventually the politics of the United States is going to change, and the money, the spending is going to stack up, and at some point the United States, they're going to get in their ships and sail away, or they're going to get in their planes, sail away. We did it in Afghanistan, we did it in Iraq, we did it in Libya, we're doing it now with Yemen. We just sail away, we fly away, and these countries realize that. Trick the United States. Just wait until they get close to a presidential election. Wait until the public sees how much money you're spending. Wait until the public sees the body stacking up. And that's one of the reasons why the United States doesn't want to send its own men in on the ground, because the politics will really get hot way faster once Marines and soldiers start coming back in body bags. So they've learned this. And this is another reason why we don't need to be engaging in these wars, because they're not working. We keep doing the same thing and they're not working. So the Houthis, their strategy, like I said, they were hiding in the mountains. They put up decoys. So the British, United States, they would come in off their carriers or off some airstrip of Qatar or Djibouti somewhere. Drop missiles. The Houthis would set up decoys. Satellites would pick them up and say, oh yeah, here's a target here. You can hit this. Waste of money. Or they would just send out these little cheap drones to the sea, shoot at the U.S. destroyers, and the U.S. destroyers would spend millions of dollars to stop a $1,000, $2,000 drone. So because the Houthis had home field advantage, because of the terrain of Yemen, the United States had a very difficult time identifying where exactly are these people. They're hiding down there in caves, they're in the mountains, they're mobile, they're constantly moving, they're not gathering in large groups, they'll shoot, move around. So it was very difficult for the United States to track them. And obviously they were getting intel from Iran. The Houthis are getting intel from Iran. And the Houthis, they're also battle hardened. They've been fighting the UAE and Saudi Arabia, the U.S.'s proxies, for the last, 8-10 years. So these guys are used to fighting. They got combat experience. And they're not going to back down. So they're ready for it. They're ready for a full-blown fight with the United States. And now the Houthis, they've even increased their capabilities. They have the capability to shoot long-range missiles deep into the Indian Ocean. So we all know the pathway from Asia to Europe, from Europe to Asia. The shortcut is to go through the Gulf of Aden, through the Red Sea. But since the Houthis started attacking ships, a lot of these cargo ships, actually more than half of the cargo ships, started going around the Cape of Good Hope under Africa, the long way, the old way from back centuries ago. The long way around Africa all the way up to Europe, which is way more expensive, way more costly, because it takes way longer, way more fuel and all of that. And the Houthis said, you know what? We can shoot deep into the Indian Ocean. So even if you're trying to get to the Cape of Good Hope around the long way, we might hit you there too. So the ships are taking an even longer journey, or they're just not going at all because it's not worth it. The United States said, look, we got the most powerful military in history. We got the most powerful naval in history. We're going to go over here. We're going to park over here right outside of Yemen. We're going to blockade Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. And y'all can come on through. Some of these companies, these cargo ships, were confident in the U.S. Navy's power, and it failed. One of them ended up getting blown up right there as it was being escorted by a U.S. naval destroyer. So it's extremely costly. This is costing Israel so much money because the main goal of the Houthis is to stop cargo ship supplies coming to Israel, to and from Israel, or to and from the UK and United States, because they are calling them, I think, the triad of evil or something like that. And like I said, the United States government, they're giving fluff pieces, even though earlier Joe Biden admitted that the airstrikes weren't working.
Strikes in Yemen are working. Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
But you got naval officers, Pentagon officials saying, yeah, we're completely degraded their capability, the Houthi. We're destroying their missile systems. We're destroying their hideouts. We're doing all of this and that. And they're not able to do what they used to do. In fact, let's look at what one naval officer had to say, even though the look on his face was seeming like he was lying, because they asked him if it was working and he didn't seem too confident, but obviously he's going to give the politically correct statement.
If we were to look at the calendar, right, since October 7th, the surging of U.S. forces to the Red Sea, and yet they keep firing back. They keep seeming to be opportunistic in their response. Is the U.S. Navy, the Fifth Fleet, are the actions having an effect?
It's very clear that we are degrading their capability, and every single day they attempt to attack us, we're eliminating and disrupting them in ways that are meaningful and I do believe have an impact.
How long does this go on?
Well, I have a pretty clear end game in mind, and that is the restoration of the free flow of commerce and safe navigation in the southern Red Sea.
So now let's look at what a Houthi guy had to say, because the Houthi, these guys are paying attention to this. It's not just a bunch of dumbass guys in the desert like they keep painting them out to be. So let's look at what one of their guys, I don't know if there was a leader or what, but let's look at what he had to say on X. Reacting to the report of the American aircraft carrier withdrawal from the Red Sea, member of Yemen's Supreme Political Council Mohammed Ali al-Houthi in an X post said that if America claims reduction of the operations of Yemeni armed forces to save its face, back down from militarization of the sea, and send a message to the insurance companies, this is a positive self-deception. But if it sees a real decrease in operations, then it should direct its ships and the ships of its protege Israel to sail again, to be a delicious catch for our forces. So they're taunting, they're talking crap, they're declaring victory. And basically he's saying, okay, well, if y'all are going around telling the American people, telling the West that y'all have degraded us, y'all have destroyed our hideouts, and a lot of our equipment, and we can't do what we've been doing, how about you remove the naval ships from the Red Sea area and tell all the cargo ships, okay, y'all can come on back through, sail through the Red Sea, it's totally safe again. But the United States Navy is not going to do that because they know they're lying, because it's been a failed war, it's a failed operation. And they have not degraded the Houthi capabilities. Like this guy said, they're going to be a delicious catch for our forces. These cargo ships start going in and master the Red Sea again, they're going to be getting hit or captured by the Yemeni, by the Houthi. So this failure is exposing a couple of things. It's exposing that the United States might, it's not as powerful. It's not some all-powerful force that can just run roughshod over the entire world, that can just defeat anybody. The Russians are trash, China's trash, and the United States is completely unstoppable. That is an absolute lie. We have evidence in front of us. A failed war after failed war after failed war. And the naval trolls, all of these clowns, they keep making excuses. Every time there's a failed war, they have an excuse for it. And not coping with reality leads to more failed wars, because the cockiness, the confidence stays there. Say, oh, it's just some ragtag group, let's go wage war. So we just keep engaging in all these unnecessary wars. And another thing that is exposing is the United States leadership is declining, because the United States tried to build this coalition of the willing like George Bush did back in the day. And most of their allies told the United States, we're not getting involved, we're not doing it. Even Canada, Australia, countries like that, the Great Britain, and I think it was one or two other countries, they sent assets, but most of the countries said no. And France said, look, United States, we're tired of being your flunky, being under your boot. So France started its own coalition of the willing of EU countries, and they went down there and also waged war against Yemen. And like I said, they turned tail because the war got too intense for them. But bottom line is, A lot of these countries are not following United States into oblivion anymore. They're just not going to blindly follow the United States into these wars. They're concerned. Look, you're going to get us hit by China. You're going to get us hit by the Russians. If you get caught up in some war, some major war with Russia or with China, we don't want to get involved in it. That's what a lot of these allies are telling the United States. So now they're at the point where Biden is trying to offer them a deal. He told the Houthis, look, man, if y'all just stop shooting, we'll stop calling you terrorists. How about that? We'll remove the terrorist label. Just please stop shooting at the cargo ships. And we'll also remove the blockade that we have on your capital city, Sanaa. And the Houthi, they call this blackmail. So publicly, the United States is claiming, yeah, we're degrading them, everything's going well, but behind the scenes, we got the Biden administration conceding and trying to make a backdoor deal with the Houthi. And I just want to say, imagine the United States trying to fight Yemen if Yemen was being funded and backed by Russia and China, the way Ukraine is over there. Imagine Russia, China, and dozens of other countries funding, giving targeting information, military advice, and all of that to Yemen while the United States was trying to fight them. How ugly do you think that would have got? But the warmongers and the cocky, arrogant clowns in the United States, they don't want to see that. They can't admit stuff like that. And the truth of the matter is, the United States just lost his war against Yemen. Losing a war doesn't mean, oh, we have naval ships sinking, we have a bunch of soldiers in body bags. But you went over there to stop the Yemen, and you had a specific military objective. You failed in your objective, and then you took a bunch of your assets, the majority of your assets, and just sailed away, abandoned the mission. So the entire point here is we need to be careful. We need to stop engaging in all these foreign interventionist wars. We're not some unstoppable country. We just can't defeat everybody in the world. Our military is degrading. Our military is woke as hell. Our military is shrinking. The United States just had to cut 20-some thousand positions in the army because they just can't recruit. People don't want to join the military because they see the United States government lies and you're going to war and dying for a bunch of rich politicians, military industrial complex, and other reasons why the United States can't recruit. But we have to be careful. We're over there provoking Russia. We're provoking China. We keep talking about China's going to attack 2025, 2028, and all that. All those aircraft carriers, 5-6 aircraft carriers, and a bunch of other assets around China. We got special forces 6 miles off the coast of China. And people are cool with it because they say, rah, rah, we're the United States. We can beat anybody. We're not worried about it. And if things end up escalating into a hot war, if things pop off like that, we get caught up with Iran, we get caught up with Russia, China, even North Korea, things are going to get really ugly really fast. So let me know what you guys think about this. Leave me your thoughts below. Share the video. Thanks for watching.